Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Ahern, and as Beth just indicated, I'm an Assistant Deputy Commissioner with the New York City Office of Child Support Services. I oversee the Enforcement Division, which manages the income withholding order process here in New York City, and my staff respond to many of the questions that employers raise. And so I'm really pleased to have some time to talk with you this morning about new hire reporting of independent contractors. Alice just gave you a national perspective on independent contractors as part of her presentation, and my remarks are really going to focus in on New York State and the New York State requirement that employers report new hire information for individuals with whom they have an independent contracting relationship. Next slide, please. So my plan for this morning is to start by stepping back and giving an overview of the federal and state new hire reporting requirements, first as they relate to employees generally. I will explain how the new hire information that you provide to us is used by the child support program and why it's so important to our work. I'm then going to talk about the New York State law that went into effect in 2022 that expanded those new hire reporting requirements to include independent contractors. I'll note some considerations that employers might want to think about and how to meet this requirement. Excuse me. And then I'll end by sharing some online resources if you'd like to learn more. And I'll note that I noticed at the beginning that many of you, I think, are payroll professionals. And so if you don't personally work with independent contractors in your company, I would just ask that you listen, take this information back to your company and talk with those who do work with independent contractors. So, and I'll end the presentation by sharing some online resources that are really great if you'd like to learn more, and that's going to leave us some time for questions. Next slide, please. Under federal law, all states must maintain a state directory of new hires, and all employers have certain mandatory reporting obligations, and these are laws that have been in place since 1996. Next slide, please. So before I get into the specifics of new hire reporting, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the purpose of the new hire reporting requirements. We know this is work that we are asking employers to do. And so we just think it's really important that you understand how important new hire reporting really is and that its purpose is that it really helps children receive vital financial support. The information that employers provide helps the child support program quickly locate parents and non-custodial parents, and that this location is the first really critical step, which enables us to establish paternity if paternity has not been established, as well as to establish the child support orders. New hire reporting is also key to the initiation of the income withholding process, which is, as Fran mentioned, really the ideal method of collecting child support. It streamlines the collection of support from parents who become employed and when they change jobs. And then those payments provide a really dependable flow of financial support to the custodial parent. From the non-custodial parent side, income withholding is also very important and provides an important benefit to them because it helps the non-custodial parent, your employee, avoid accruing debt, and it helps avoid other enforcement and collection methods. And I'll just note that what's so important about New York State's law that extends with regard to independent contractors is that it extends these benefits of income withholding to families regardless of whether the parent is your employee or someone with whom your company has an independent contractor relationship. Next slide, please. Okay, so what exactly are the new hire reporting requirements? So I'll start by talking about the federal requirement that has been in effect since 1996. Under federal law, employers are required to report all newly hired or rehired employees to the State Directory of New Hires, and they may do so using the federal W-4 form or an equivalent form. The federal law sets the maximum reporting timeframes. For New York State employers, the report is due no later than 20 days from the date of hire. That is the maximum under federal law. There's also an option for employers to submit their report electronically, and in these cases, the report is due 2 times per month. Next slide, please. Okay, so after the employer files the new hire report, states then are required to enter that information in the state directory of new hires within 5 business days. That information is then transmitted to the national directory of new hires, and we have to do that within 3 days. What the child support program does then is it takes that new hire data, we match it against child support records, the information we have in our records, and then when there's a data match, we use the matched information to locate non-custodial parents, as well as to obtain the name and address of their employer. And so when there is a match between the information that's provided by the employer and the information in our records, the child support program will then send an income withholding notice to the employer, and that we are required to do that within 2 days. And that whole process is automated. Okay, next slide. So let's fast forward to today and what's new in this process. So, or what's new since 2022. So back in October of 2021, Governor Hochul signed Chapter Law 504, which expanded the new hire reporting requirement to include certain independent contractors. And that law went into effect on January 1st, 2022. And the new law requires that employers report individuals under an independent contractor arrangement with contracts in excess of $2,500. Next slide, please. Okay, so so this slide steps through the information that employers are expected to report with regard to independent contractors and how they are to report it. Employers must report the independent contractor name, address, and social security number. They are also required to report the date that services are first performed by the independent contractor, the employer name, address, and federal employer identification number, or FEIN. For independent contractors, the employers are required to report this information using the New York New Hire Online Reporting Center, and the web address for that is indicated here on the slide. So employers cannot report this information using Form IT-204. They have to use that online system. Next slide, please. Okay, some implementation considerations, and I think this kind of echoes some of the things that Alice was talking about. So as employers are thinking about how to meet this requirement, some things to think about are potentially updating the onboarding procedures for your independent contractor, so you actually have the information that's required under the New York State law. You may also want to consider opportunities to coordinate between the staff who handle accounts payable and those who handle payroll. And right, so there are 2 points in that process where coordination could be helpful. The first is coordination on the new hire reporting requirement. You have staff that handle new hire reporting already for employees, and now there's this new requirement for independent contractors, and so some coordination there could be helpful to you. And then the second point is with regard to compliance with IWOs for independent contractors that you may now receive as a result of that new hire report, right? So keep in mind that, as I described earlier, a new hire report, whether it is for an employee or an independent contractor, that can result in an IWO to the employer if it is matched with a child support case. And that IWO is going to be sent to the employer address reported by the employer to the state for that individual. And the employer must comply with income withholding order for independent contractors, just as they do with employees. The requirements are the same. You may wish to consider reporting all independent contractors and not just those with a contract value greater than $2,500. The sponsor's memorandum that accompanied the New York State law noted that businesses, although not required, are encouraged to report all independent contractors regardless of contract amount. And you may want to consider if reporting all independent contractors might just simplify the implementation for you all. Next slide, please. So I just want to leave you with this slide, which lists some online resources that I think are really helpful and provide additional clarification on the independent contractor reporting requirement. There's information both on the New York State and the New York City child support websites. So those are listed on the left side of the slide. And then there's information also on the New York State Department of Tax and Finance website.